Hi, I'm Todd Jones, host of the podcast Pressbox Access. Here's a clip from my interview with Marla Ridenour. Marla tells us about the mumbling Bill Belichick and how she once hung up the phone on him when he was head coach of the Browns. Well, you mentioned this guy's name. We're talking Browns. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick coached the Browns, for 5 seasons in the early 90s?
It was 91 to 95.
95, yeah. So you're around Bill Belichick, and the thing to remember is, well, first off, the Browns fired Paul Brown and they fired Bill Belichick, which when you think about it, that's got to be some kind of like record. Fire Paul Brown, the guy who basically invented modern football, and Bill Belichick, the guy who's dominated it in the last 20 years. But Bill Belichick was not the Bill Belichick we know now as a great success when he was coaching the Browns. Tell me about covering Bill Belichick in the early 90s with Cleveland.
Well, in a sense, he was sort of the Bill Belichick we know just because he was so tight-lipped. I was, living in Columbus then and driving 2 hours, and you could be in a great mood. I'd be listening to Luther. I'd be all jacked up, and 30 seconds into Belichick, your day is shot, just just because he just had a way of putting a damper on the day with his, I only go by what I sees and I'm not a doctor and, those kind of comments. But but the most classic moment, well, I actually have two, but the first one was, when he's under fire and they're, chanting "Bill must go," outside the locker room after the games, and
you could hear it outside.
Yeah, because it was that same little room where Sam Rutigliano talked, where he was talking, and it's just like a wooden door separating it from the concourse, so people would stand out there and yell during the post-game press conference at him. So,
it's like the French Revolution. They got a guillotine up, they're ready.
Yeah, but so it was like it was during the week after that was, all going on, where I wrote something for I wrote a note in the Dispatch about how he had the Brecksville police guarding his house. And back then, the media room had a payphone. So one of the PR people comes up the next day and said, "Bill's going to call you on the payphone." So in the payphone had a little room. I shut the door, to talk, and because I knew this wasn't going to be good. And
is that where Superman would occasionally go in?
Yeah. So anyway, he's like livid that I would write this and that the cops are guarding his house. And
why? You didn't? Why?
And I said, "Well, Bill, I didn't put your address in there, and I really don't think anybody's going to drive up from Columbus and drive around Brecksville looking for, the protective detail at your house." But this went on. I swear to God, it felt like 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
I don't know how long it was, but it felt like 30
I don't think
minutes.
Belichick has talked for 30 minutes in the last decade. But well, I believe you.
No, but
but what I'm saying is that he never says anything, but he's haranguing you for 30 minutes?
It seemed like forever. All I know is I'm trying to figure out how am I going to get off the phone with him and be respectful. I just can't. And I'm like racking my brain, like, what do I do? So finally I say, "Well, Bill, I don't think you know me very well if you think that I would do anything to endanger your wife and kids." And I basically said something to the effect of, "I think we've said all we can say on this matter." Technically I sort of did hang up on him, but I had to figure out a way.
Whoa, you hung up on Belichick.
Well, sort of yes, and sort of. Like I said.
No. Let's say it. Marla Ridenour hung up the phone on Bill Belichick.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, needless to say, our relationship with all the Cleveland media was adversarial, to say the least. But there was also a moment at the Super Bowl, and I think it's when he won his first Super Bowl. I was not covering it, but I went to stay with a friend, and they were staying at I think it's now the Roosevelt Hotel. And there was a party that Patriots won. It was the year where they had all their defensive backs hurt. And I think Vrabel caught a touchdown pass. But anyway, I'm sitting in the bar waiting for my friend to be done. Upstairs, the Patriots are having their, team Super Bowl celebration. And he comes in and sits down with his neighbors from Brecksville. So I'm sitting at the bar for a long time and I'm like, I know he saw me. I got to go up there and congratulate him, but I know he's going to hate, this is not going to go over well when I go up to Belichick in his finest hour and, congratulate him. And he was, oh my God, the look he gave me when I walked, it probably took me a couple Sazeracs to get up the nerve to walk over there. My favorite cocktail, by the way. But anyway, when I did, oh my God, the glare he gave me was horrible. But I think by the time I got done with what I said about, it was your finest coaching job, you survived all these injuries, it was an incredible, exciting game, I think he really did appreciate it. And I think he might have, I know he and Tony have a little bit of a better relationship now. I think he might have warmed up to some of us since, but it was very, very frosty when we were in the 90s together.
Do you think that was partly an act, or do you just think that's Belichick? Because I always suspected it's not. I'm saying he's phony. What I'm saying is he's role playing. That he's not the way he is as a person, but he's playing a role as a coach, and that's why he's not going to play along with you, the media.
I think that's possible. I mean, from what I've heard for people who know him, and even if someone who I know who used to run into him at the Brecksville Rec Center when they were kids were together, said he was a great guy. So I think that's possible that, when he came in his first training camp and laid out all this set of rules, I think that's what he thought he had to do. Like he was reading every press release before it went out. He had his he had his hands on every little thing because I don't think he knew how to be a coach, and he wanted his hand on everything. So I can maybe see your point on that this is the way he thought he had to be, but I don't think he ever really fully enjoyed being interviewed in a mass setting.
Well, I was at a Super Bowl media day once when it was I think it was the Patriots and the Panthers down in Houston. And I just spent most of the media day just trying to hang around Belichick's little stand where all the media were around just to see if he would crack. And I remember even tossing in a few oddball questions, and, he would look at you like you had three heads, and he just was not going to play the game. And, all right, I got it. The NFL is making $9 billion. They don't need this guy to entertain you. And it's not even entertain you. It's just inform the fans who were reading these stories or watching the TV news or listening on radio. But he wasn't going to do it. And I guess you can't argue. Look at all the Super Bowls he's won.
I will say this. After the last game at Cleveland Stadium in 95 was the most, forthcoming he was, maybe not after the game, but he brought his family down on the field. I read back one of my stories after that, maybe it was a day or two later. He was very forthcoming about his emotions and what he was feeling with his family. That's the only time that I remember actually maybe seeing a little bit of the inside of Belichick.